Good evening and welcome to the Hip Historian Virtual Happy Hour Tour. I am Brenda Holt with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence and nearly 38 million members across the nation and approximately 900,000 right here in Arizona, we work to strengthen communities and we advocate for what matters most to families, such as health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. During the month of February, we will focus on caregiving by providing specific tools and information to help caregivers tackle post-holiday concerns, along with legal and financial issues. We understand the caregiving journey can be difficult and lonely, but we want you to know you are not alone. We are here for you and will help you navigate the challenging road ahead. Visit us at www.aarp.org/caregiving for more resources and information. You can also visit us at www.aarp.org/nearme to find out what local events we have coming up in the state. We hope you enjoy the tour tonight. Now I'll turn things over to Marshall Shore.
Folks, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Oh, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. So, I am Marshall Shore. I am your host for Arizona History Happy Hour. I want to welcome you all on this lovely February 3rd. Now, today is indeed February 3rd, but we've got a lot going on. So back in 1930, Arizona was getting ready for KTAR, which is a radio station that's still around today, was founded by the Arizona Republic, and the very next day, February 4th, it was going to turn on at 7 a.m. for the first time, being one of the most powerful and largest stations in all of the Southwest. It was a pretty big deal. Now, also, those towers are famous because they also show up in that opening pan of Psycho. A lot of people think it's the Westward Ho, but the tower wasn't there yet. And actually, there were two towers on top of this building with the antenna strung between them on wire. So it is also day 3 of the Lunar New Year. Now, today being the third day is known as Red Mouth, and it's believed that arguments are more likely to happen on this day, so people visit temples and avoid social interaction. So did you do that today? Did you get into a hassle with somebody? Hopefully not. Also, it is the day the music died, when those 3 famous musicians boarded a plane that crashed, and pretty much we now call that the day the music died, because Buddy Holly and those folks sadly perished. Now, also, if today is a day for, do you like cake? Do you like carrots? Well, today is the perfect day for you because it is National Carrot Cake Day. So there you go. So there we have February 3rd and what all is going on. All right, so if you are a first-time viewer, what can you expect tonight? Well, we've got a little bit of trivia going on. We've got a From the Vault, so something around Arizona that you might not expect to find. We also have a little bit of Arizona music history, as well as information about a little Arizona, as well as a beverage and a special guest. So if this is your first time, you might be wondering, who is that man and why am I hearing his voice? Well, a little over 22 years ago, I moved to Arizona from Brooklyn. I was working in a beautiful Carnegie building, decided to trade all that horrific winter weather that they're having right now for some sunshine and a library in South Phoenix. And so that got me here to Arizona, and we promptly moved into a beautiful 1956 ranch that is a time capsule. As you can tell from my kitchen is covered in buttercream yellow tile. And oh my gosh, it's only getting better with age, like a fine wine. Now, as soon as we got here to Arizona, all I kept hearing people talk about how there was no history. But I knew that wasn't true, because every time I would run into stories, people, places, whenever I walked out my door, whether it was for a short walk or a long drive, and everything in between. And then there's also that post-war boom that I think in so many ways made the Arizona that we all know and love today. All those GIs that either were stationed here, trained here, or passed on their way to somewhere else. And after World War II, they were moving here in huge numbers. I'm also called the hip historian, which means I get to have fun with history. Why, just last week, I was up in Cottonwood. We had a panel of folks talking about some really cool movie history up there, which was a lot of fun. We did it at the Old Town Center for the Arts, right in Cottonwood, right on Main Street. What a fun time we had. Also coming up in a couple weekends, we have our Haunted History walking tour of downtown Phoenix, as well as in the afternoon, we are doing through the Office of Arts and Culture in Phoenix. We are doing basically storytelling. So if anybody would like information on that, please be sure and reach out to me. Now, I see some of you have already found the chat, so that's great. Now, if you say the show is over and you want to say, I've got a great story I want to share, here is the perfect way you can do that. You can do that either through Facebook, Instagram, email, which is hello@hiphistorian. So I love to hear from you all. That's still where I find some of my best stuff, out and about running into folks. So because it is a happy hour, we indeed do have a cocktail. And so tonight, our cocktail is Bugs Bubs, because it's National Carrot Day. So we wind up with kind of a carrot cake cocktail with a little bit of Deep Eddy vodka, Amaro Montenegro, golden turmeric. Of course, there's carrot, some pineapple juice, lemon juice, horchata, and some bitters, topped off with just a touch of ginger beer. So with the miracle of modern technology, let's see if I can get my bartender coming on to make my cocktail for me. Now, what I love about PJ is he knows I'm rather challenged, so he makes it quite simple. He packaged all those ingredients right here in this little jar. So all I do is do that. And he said to watch out, there's even some cloves hanging out in there. So yeah, so we've got that. We'll top it off with just a little bit of that ginger beer. And we have a cocktail worthy of Bugs Bunny. So there you go. Yum, yum. Now let's see what it tastes like. All right. Oh, wow. The ginger beer really picks that up a notch. That's really nice. Wow. Oh, and Don, I do believe it probably is very snowy back in Lafayette, Indiana. Oh my. So, all right. So now we're ready for our little Arizona segment. And so we're going to talk about a town that, we've talked about before, but it had a bit of a change. which I think is kind of cool. It'll be interesting to see kind of what happens as time goes on. So Cleator, which is up in Yavapai, has a population of about 8, was originally founded in 1864. It's been for sale for quite a while. Somebody bought Cleator, Arizona. So that town that was originally known as Turkey Creek because it was near Turkey Creek and basically was there because of a railroad to help get the gold out of the mines and to a smelter. So that's where the history starts. Mr. Cleator basically had an interest in the town, and about 1905 wound up owning the entire town. So he changed the name to then Cleator and got himself a post office. The family until recently still owned it. And it was the one way to, it was kind of the main way for most people to get to Crown King. So it was kind of a little stop off point. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. And last time we talked about it, it was when Morel was on the show, and we're going to show that little clip of the fun they are having in Cleator. So indeed, so someone now owns a bar that won't even fit all the inhabitants of Cleator. And so you can see the yacht club and everything. So someone now owns that. So it'll be very interesting to see kind of what happens to that little town right off the 17. Oh, so now it's time for a special guest. And so because my friend Suze is so busy, she's got a theater company down in Tucson that she works with. And so we actually re-recorded this. So I am going to go ahead and play us doing our trivia. So hold tight, everybody, and enjoy. And you know, here on Arizona History Happy Hour, we always have a special guest. And I am so excited tonight to bring on my friend Susan Claassen. Oh my gosh, just wait. She's got so many good stories. Hold on just a moment. Well, hello, Susan. How are you?
Oh, Happy New Year, my dear friend.
Oh my gosh, you're looking fabulous.
Thank you. You too. Always stylish, always adorable.
So, Susan, for folks who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been managing artistic director at the Invisible Theater. I can't tell you how long.
I was going to say, don't do that because you can give away an answer. Oh my gosh.
I wouldn't do that. So I'm an actor, I'm a director, I'm a producer, I'm a fundraiser. I wear many different hats, which I'm sure we'll talk about some of those. Fortunately, I look good in hats, so it all works. And I love our friendship, Marshall.
Oh, I agree. I mean, from the moment we laid eyes on each other, it was, hello, friend.
Exactly. It was kismet.
Indeed, it was. So I know we've got some trivia coming up because that's what we do here. Now, we do trivia a little differently than a lot of other bars, other things like that. It's like we'll go through the questions and answers.
Okay.
And then the exciting thing is we will go through and tell the stories of the answers. Because for me, that's where the fun and the magic always
Wonderful.
is in that moment of sharing.
It's what it's all about, connections.
Indeed, it is. All right. Now, people keep track of the trivia. Some people do it in the chat session. Some people do it on a pad and paper. You can do it wherever you would like. It's all good. I had one friend who even sent a photo of his leg and a marker.
Now, are there prizes?
There are no prizes.
The prize is the satisfaction of getting the most.
Right. Well, it's also not even about getting the most. It's also about learning these stories because so many people, it's like, there's so many great stories.
Yeah.
And just keeping folks engaged and getting things people to share around.
And, I think that's so true. And I think we've learned this even more in the last couple of years. If we take the time to listen, everybody has a story.
Right.
Everybody.
And I firmly agree with that everybody has a great story to share. All right. So let's get this ball rolling. So we have our first question. In what year was Invisible Theater founded? Was it A, 1982, B, 1971, C, 1976, or D, 1989? All right. While you're thinking about what year Invisible Theater was founded, we're going to go on to question 2. All right. How did Invisible Theater get its name? A, the optimists named the theater because they couldn't find it. Was it a mime theater when it started? C, it refers to the invisible energy between actors and an audience that makes the magic of theater. And D, it began as a radio program. Oh, which one of those do you think is how Invisible Theater got its name? All right. How long has Susan Claassen been artistic director of Invisible Theater? Was it A, 1982, B, 1971, C, 1976, or D, 1989? All right. Question 4. Who was the most renowned artist to perform with Invisible Theater? Was it A, Brad Pitt, B, Lynn Redgrave, C, Lily Tomlin, or D, Jimmy Fallon? Which one of those was the most renowned artist to perform with Invisible Theater? All right. Up, and here we are at the halfway point. What mayors have Tucson have issued Invisible Theater Days proclamation? A, Lou Murphy, B, Tom Volge, Tom Volge, C, Regina Romero, or D, all of the above? All right. Question 6. In what Arizona town was Invisible Theater banned in 1977 for doing a play on evolution? Shocking. Was it A, Scottsdale, B, Prescott, C, Kingman, D, Sedona? Wow. What town do you think banned Invisible Theater back in the 70s? All right. How did you get the idea to play A Conversation with Edith Head? A, Edith Head called and asked. B, the script was sent to me by Bob Mackey, who was a sketch artist for Edith Head. C, watching a biography channel and got the idea. Or D, none of the above? How do you think Susan started that amazing production conversation with Edith Head? All right. Question 8. Edith Head won how many Oscars? Was it A, 5, B, 0, C, 6, or D, 8? All right. Question 9. What film did Edith Head design that was actually filmed at Old Tucson Studios? Was it A, A Place in the Sun, B, Samson Delilah, C, The Life and Times of Reg Joy Bean, or D, The Man Who Knew Too Much? Question 10. Why did Susan move to Tucson? A, the Witness Protection Program. Look at her. Maybe. B, allergies. C, husband wanted to attend the U of A. Or D, a basketball scholarship. All right. Question 11. What was the first theater Susan worked at in Tucson? A, Gaslight Theater. B, Stunt Woman at Old Tucson. C, Invisible Theater. Or D, Arizona Theater Company. All right. Well, you're trying to think of which theater did Susan work for first. We're going to go on to our last question. Question 12. How did you get in to be a clown in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade? A, auditioned. B, went to clown college. C, Savannah Guthrie recommended. Or friends in high places. All right. Well, you are locking in your final answers. We are going to take a little bit of an Arizona music break. So enjoy, and we'll be right back in a moment with your answers. All right. So what I'm going to ask you to do while you're locking in your final answers with Suze, so much fun. So we are going to move on and do a quick little Arizona history break. So when I thought, Sue's being in the theater, I was like, so many things we could talk about, but I was like, something that I found out a few years ago, which I was kind of surprised by, that I was, with terms of Arizona music, we're going to talk about Judy Kaye. So Judy Kaye is a well-known opera singer who was born right here in Phoenix. She also has been on Broadway. In fact, she has won in 1988 a Tony for Phantom of the Opera. She also won in 2012 a Tony, a Drama Desk Award, as well as Outer Critics Circle Award. I found out she actually was from Phoenix because there was a production of Souvenir, which is a 2-person play musical about Florence Foster Jenkins and her piano player. Now, this was a wealthy socialite who couldn't hold a tune, but she didn't care. She booked concerts and would sell at Carnegie Hall. And so Judy Kaye was in the New York show of that. It traveled to one place. It traveled to Phoenix, and I couldn't figure out why did she come to Phoenix with it. And then it was like, someone was like, well, she was born here before she went off to college at UCLA, and then had an amazing, illustrious career in the arts. So Judy Kaye, thank you. And let's get back to some trivia. Oh, and here we are with some answers. I know you're all excited about this. So without any further ado, let's hear some amazing stories. All right, Susan, in what year does Invisible Theater founded?
1971. This year was our 50th anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we call it our golden anniversary. And who knew? And needless to say, it was not quite how we imagined. In the midst of COVID, we had changes and postponements, but we decided that it was so important to keep theater live that we put whatever little resources we had into making our building COVID protocol safe. And we were the first theater in Arizona to have that distinction through the Arizona Department of Health Services. So we have done over 100 live performances, always limited capacity, from 20 people in our 80-seat theater. And currently we're at 50% capacity. Although we could be 100, we choose not to be. We think it's the prudent thing to do. So we are at no more than 50% capacity until we get through this a little more.
Okay. Wow. And I see you've got, I mean, this is your upcoming season. You got some great things coming up.
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, oh my God, Dixie's Tupperware Party is so much fun.
Maybe you'll come down. That's next weekend.
Well, and actually, you know, I was thinking about it because I mean, I love Dixie and I love the fact that it's going to be in such an intimate theater.
Well, it'll be in our at the Burger. So, but it still be a couple hundred people, but it'll be 50% capacity there. But that was postponed from a year ago. We're currently have Steve Solomon, the originator of My Father's Jewish, My Mother's Italian, and I'm in Therapy, doing his show From Brooklyn to Broadway in 50 years. That had been postponed 3 times. It was the first show that he was scheduled to come in. He was getting on a plane the morning of March 13th, 2020. March 12th, that evening, I called him and said, the city's closing, we're closing. And now three postponements later, he's here and laughter fills the Burger Performing Arts Center.
Ah, that's great.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Question 2. How did Invisible Theater get its name?
And that's true. It refers to the invisible energy that flows between performers and an audience that makes the magic. And we've added live theater. We applaud everybody who's trying anything to connect, but it's always been our mission, our purpose to be in the room. And we not in the Zoom, but be in the room. And that's where we put all of our efforts. And even with masks on, you can feel that energy,
right?
That not only audiences feel amongst each other, even though they're 6 feet apart or in their little pods, but actors can feel it, musicians can feel it on the stage, and that's what's so outstanding.
Right, and that's what really makes that live performance so amazing, is that connection from all those folks in that room, feeding on each other.
Right.
And so, indeed. All right. So how long have you been the artistic director of Invisible Theater?
Now, they're going to get this wrong because you had 1976, but it was actually 1975. So I would give anybody that, that correct. So it's sort of how it, started. IT started as a new playwrights theater. Molly McCassin and I were friends, and I'll later explain how we met. And she said, "There's this new theater. Come on, let's go explore it." And we both had an improv background, and it was the old Oddfellows Hall downtown, where Etherton Gallery used to be. We had walked up the stairs, and it just felt like home. It was the closest thing to a loft that Tucson had, and everybody worked out of there because we had wood floors. So the ballet company, the city dance theater, everyone worked there. We could never bring it up to code, so we didn't perform there. We performed at other venues around town till we found our intimate venue. But it was an exciting time. Molly and I were a little bit older than some of our founding directors. Scott Carter, who's the producer for Bill Maher, Tim Fuller, still a fabulous photographer and IT's photographer, Susie Miller, Rebecca Peters. And the first year was artistically exciting, and then it was economically very, very hard. And most of the men left, which left the women in charge. So we learned on the job training how to run a theater. I mean, I'm an actor, that's what my training. I directed one show in college, maybe had one directing class, but we learned how to do it. And we realized, especially, Molly and I, having been at other places, realized how precious this could be. So IT was founded as a collective. It still functions that way. So there's lots of input, lots of collaboration. Founded as a new playwrights theater originally, and it has evolved. For the first 10 years, all we did were new plays, brand new world premieres, and it's evolved to do both now, to be an actor and director and playwright theater. So that's the evolution of IT.
Wow. All right. So question 4, who was the most renowned artist to perform at Invisible Theater?
I would say blessed memory, Lynn Redgrave.
Aw.
I know. An extraordinary person. I had the privilege, and I use this term loosely, of directing her when she came to work with another group that put together spoken word and music, Sonda and Harry, and it was wonderful. And, here's Lynn Redgrave, and here's me, little Suze. And she said, direct me. Okay. And I would give her direction. She would take it. She was wonderful, wonderful. When my show, A Conversation with Edith Head, was going into London, she sent me notes that said, give my hometown a hell, Suze, only in a British accent. It sounds better. But she always wanted to know what clown I was going to be, because she lived in New York, of course. I would see her every time. She battled so bravely breast cancer. When we booked this show, she was in remission, and it came back. And I spoke to the agent, I spoke to Lynn, I spoke to her director, Joe, and I said, we understand. She said, no, I want to come. It was the most transcendent performance. No one knew, because it was a reading about her mom and who played Juliet, and at an older age. And she sat at a beautiful table. She did the reading. She stood for her bows. The audience was mesmerized. This was in January. She passed away in March. And people said, did you know? And I said, yes, of course I knew, because as she said, theater is my doctor. Being on the stage was the best thing. And we were actually the last performance that Lynn did. And it was just amazing. It was amazing. We've had the privilege of working with so many wonderful guest artists in our series, Dame Cleo Lane and Sir Johnny Dankworth, blessed memory, John Amos. And again, Steve Ross, great cabaret player, and Hampton Calloway, again, and now Steve Solomon, of course, and then Dixie coming in. So it's been a joy to be able to present these wonderful artists to the greater Tucson community.
Right. All right. Question 5. What mayors of Tucson have issued Invisible Theater Day's proclamation? And And it's all of the above.
And more. More. So it's like almost in my memory, I would think every mayor at some point, the last being Regina Romero, our wonderful mayor, who actually, when we were doing Gloria Life about Gloria Steinem in February of 2021, and our protocols, were extremely strict, she came to the theater. We were all masked. She watched it because that's the kind of woman she is. She honors those that went before her, that empowered her to be the youngest mayor that we have. And it was really a thrill in every way. And then, of course, you can see her in that picture. Our 50th celebration was fabulous in every way. We call it Fab 50. People had boas, and we gave her, one of the IT 50 bags that had boas. And the celebration she was unable to come to, but she celebrated with us in the lobby. And it was the greatest stage performance because everyone, Crystal Stark and Joe Bourne and Betsy Cruz Craig and Samantha and Chris Dye, it was an extravaganza in the midst of an extremely challenging time, but people came to celebrate what IT had achieved. And that first performance, we did 2 shows at the Burger. It marked our 100th live performance, thank God, without one COVID-related incident. And I knock everything because, you can do everything that, it's
great.
There are no guarantees, but you can do everything to mitigate the possibility.
Indeed, that's all we can do. All right, question 6. In what Arizona town was IT banned for doing a play on evolution?
Yeah, Kingman. So we sat around. This was an original musical called Ancient Ooze and All That Moves. We never said who started the spark, but that a spark started the process. And we would kid, Merle Regal and Hal Robbins created this. And, as it was being written and we were rehearsing, we said, oh, what if we're banned? Ha, 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 ha. Right? We were under a grant from the Arizona Commission under the tenure of Shelley Cohn.
Oh.
Hey. And this was Art in Arizona Towns. We stayed with people. It was before per diems.
Okay.
So we are in Kingman. And, like I'm the amniote egg. Oh, amniote egg, what a perfect little keg out of the ocean onto the land. The fin becomes a foot and the foot becomes a hand. That's the level. And I was also Rocky, who witnessed, a rock that witnessed all this. As I said, no one said what started the spark. The principal jumps up on stage and says, remember, children, this is just a story. And we looked at each other and went, okay, here it comes. We had to stay there, and we were staying with people who believed in the idea that there was never in evolution. And these were, some people were younger than we were. And we said, well, wouldn't you rather have your child exposed? Because the minute something becomes verboten, it becomes more interesting because that's how we are.
Right.
I had to make a phone call to the Arizona Commission to Shelley saying, Shelley, we have been banned in Kingman. They want us to do, and we were doing story theater also, and it was a Grace Paley story. And it was not appropriate, for grammar school kids at all. And we refused to do it because that would turn kids off to theater if they're bored.
Right, exactly.
you have to do age appropriate and get them excited about it. So I called Shelley, and of course, there was ripples out from that. For years, whenever the legislature wanted to cut funding to the arts, they would say, remember invisible theaters, ancient ooze, and all them moves. So that's how we were banned. We then came down to Tucson, and kids had to sign releases to come see the show at our theater. We were in Nogales. We had been there before, the most Catholic of cities.
Right.
No issue. It was only in Kingman that we had that issue.
Wow.
And you have the article there to prove it. It was picked up. I had friends working at the Star, and and they called. They go, what happened? What happened?
Right, exactly.
How did you get that? AP picked it up. UPI picked it up. I mean, it was all over papers around the country. So
look at all that free press you got.
Yes. It was before social media, or we would be giants.
Exactly. Oh my God. All right. Question 7. How did you get the idea to play the Edith Head, a conversation with Edith Head?
Okay, so I have written and directed plays for other people. I have also performed one-person plays. I did Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe. I did Shirley Valentine, but I had never written anything for myself. So I'm watching, and I promise you, not one person ever said to me, Suze, you look like Edith Head. You should do a play about her. Now everybody says it, but nobody. They would say Imogene Coco, who was short, little, funny. So I'm watching this biography, and I'm certainly of the age I knew who Edith Head was, and I thought, wow, there's more of a story there. She was an executive woman before there was such a thing. 60-year career, never walking off a set. Reinventing herself. She would have been the greatest blogger, a social media giant, because she was syndicated in 36 magazines. She had a TV show, a radio show, would do fashion shows. And that gave me the idea. So if you remember when we had to call information 411, I thought, well, there's been first I checked, there was no theatrical ever done on her. And then I looked at the books. There was a book called The Dress Doctor. There was a book called How to Dress for Success. And there was Edith Head's Hollywood. It was out of print. Everything was out of print. But it said the woman who wrote with Edith Head's Hollywood, lived in the city in California. I dialed information, got the number, called, and I said, hello, my name is Susan Claassen. I'm artistic director of an intimate little theater in Tucson. I'm interested in doing a theatrical on Edith Head. Are you the Patty Calistro who wrote Edith Head's Hollywood? There was silence. Then there was this reticent sound to her voice, and she said, yes. I said, I would love to come over and meet with you. We met. It was magnets. She has 13 hours of taped interviews. Treasure trove. We spent 6 months researching. There's a museum, which is the Academy's museum, and Edith left her papers there. Her estate was controlled by the Motion Picture and Television Fund. So we're in close contact always with the fund. And they loved the idea of doing this piece because it honors, one of the greatest. Talk to the Academy, because you are not allowed to replicate Oscar. In their mind, even mention Oscar without permission is trademarked. So I wrote to them, and Patty has a press, Angel City Press in Los Angeles, and she had a relationship. So we spoke with legal at the Academy, and they said, well, is Oscar talked about in a favorable way? And I said, yes, when Miss Head won, not when she didn't, so, fax the pages, they gave permission. I can't say this till after we get to the next, but they've been so great about this. And this is March, actually February, March, will start our 20th anniversary of doing the performance. People were so, have been so wonderful about sharing, and people who work with her, she didn't die that long ago. I mean, long ago, but not that long ago. So
Right.
People who were early contract players who worked with Edith shared stories. When you see the show like you have, Marshall, 85, 90% are actual words that Edith said. And I've studied her so much that I feel I can improvise, as you saw, because we answer questions
Right.
As Edith would answer them. And, she was so media savvy. We had to find a way to put an arc in there because she really controlled her image more than probably anyone in those decades, 6 decades of her. Lucille Ball said about Edith, Lucy said, Edith knows all of our secrets, but she never tells. Because in the dressing room, it's like going the hairstyle, you talk, right? But right. Edith was very, very discreet. And we're doing the show in March in Tucson again, and then in Solana Beach, which had been postponed from a couple of years ago.
Okay. Nice. I'm glad to see that that's getting back out there again.
Yes,
it's
definitely.
A great show. Oh my gosh. So much fun. All right. Question. Edith Head has won how many Oscars? Oh my gosh. I didn't even put the answer in there. Oh, but I know it's 8.
Just count them.
Exactly.
Yes. And for the first 21 years of the Academy Awards, there was not a category for costume design. So only imagine how many she would have won. And up to the mid-60s, there were 2 awarded, one for black and white and one for color, once color came in. So, and she has 35 nominations. This is a record that will go unbroken, because there are no studio designers anymore. And on occasion, Edith would be loaned out. Like for All About Eve, she shared the Academy Award with Charles Lemaire, who was the resident designer at 20th Century Fox. So Edith designed only for Bette Davis on that film.
Oh.
And for the first year when it was awarded, she was up for an Academy Award the first year, and she felt very confident that she would win. She lost. It was devastating to her. But obviously, she went on.
She didn't give up.
No, 1,131 films later. And she worked. The last film was Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. She died 2 weeks after the wrap of that.
Wow.
Carl Reiner wanted her because of the cachet of having costumes by Edith Head, and the whole film was an homage to noir. And Edith designed one of the greatest, Double Indemnity.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's so much, fun. I had just to do it, across the country, because Edith was everywhere. So we really set it where we are. We were just in New York at the National Arts Club. we set it in New York. She had done a fashion show at the Waldorf. Paramount had an office there. We started the tour in Chicago. The train would always stop in Chicago from LA to Chicago. They would gather the stars up, and then it would go on to New York. So it's a thrill, and it stays as fresh as the first time.
Indeed, it does. I suggest everybody go see it. It's such a great production.
Thank you. Thanks.
And you can tell that so much love and care went into it.
And continues. Literally, I do not go out to do the show. Like, I wear red nail polish. Edith never did. When she would be fitting, you wouldn't want the color when you're standing behind and seeing yourself in a mirror. You don't want the color to upstage the artist. So I always change to the clear so I can get used to my hands.
Okay.
Yeah. Bob Mackey. Yeah. So that's.
And what about Bob Mackey?
I'll tell you later.
Oh, all right. All right. So question 9, what film did Edith Head design that was filmed at Old Tucson Studios?
Yep. The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean. Some years ago, the Arizona Daily Star puts up pictures of the day from years and years and years ago. And there was a picture of Edith. And people call me, they go, "Suze, your picture's in the paper." And I went, "No." Yeah. It's in the paper. Because some people, how there are people who you don't know if they're alive or dead because they've always kind of looked that way and have been there, and you've only really seen them on the screen. Edith is one of those. I can't tell you how many people have thought that I really was Edith Head. Even at an event that Robert Black and I did up at the Hermosa Inn, when we would do their dinners, and Robert would do homage fashion, and I would be there, and people would be sitting at the table. So, it's so great they got Edith Head to come in. And I went, and people would have to, she's not really Edith Head.
Right. She wasn't able to make it. Technical difficulties.
So, and I stay as Edith Head after the show because people want to share memories.
Right.
They want to remember a film they saw, or a boyfriend or girlfriend, or just friend they saw it with in a movie palace that they, whatever they want to share. And I try to stay with it. And we never knew this would happen. But everybody wants a picture with Edith. We do those pictures after, and I send it off to people, and they get their Edith Head approved sticker, because who doesn't want to be approved, even if you never heard of Edith Head. And then Bob Mackey, we interviewed, because again, he was a sketch artist for Edith.
Oh.
And he's wonderful. He's been so supportive of the show. And, people, Joan Rivers, blessed memory, was so supportive. She saw the show when we were in London, and she loved it so much. And she was always, when she came here to Tucson, to Hillel, to do a benefit, and she made her press agent, her publicist, tweet out about everybody should see Susan Claassen in a conversation with Edith Head. When we were going into LA, the LA Times wanted a quote. It was Joan Rivers and I actually went to her funeral in New York. I was devastated. And we were like this, but she really influenced me greatly. Little did I know that I was on a list of 3,000 people who were invited. I got it on a Saturday, says, Joan Rivers Memorial. And I thought it was just to donate to one of her many, many wonderful charities. It was, did I want to, attend? I would have to have the invitation, And I went, took like 2.5 minutes, cashed in, whatever miles I had. I was on a plane by noon. The funeral, Fifth Avenue was closed off. Only Joan Rivers could get Fifth Avenue closed off on a Sunday. And it was an amazing, and you saw around you all the people that she touched. And it was diversity personified.
Wow.
Yeah. So Miss Head has given entree into worlds that I'm so grateful and appreciative to be able to participate in and help keep Miss Head's legacy alive.
And just the beauty of what she was able to create.
Oh,
stunning.
Yeah. And she would say about herself, she said, I was a better diplomat than I was a designer. And that's probably true, because some of the other designers, you can always tell, like an Adrian or a Travis Banton, who were two wonderful designers. Edith really felt that costumes must further along the story. They should never, unless they were meant to, upstage the story or the performer, and that the performer had to feel comfortable in what they were wearing.
Wow. All right. So, Susan, how did you get to Tucson?
It was definitely witness. No, it wasn't.
Yes, because you're so quiet and demure. Oh my gosh.
Well, I grew up in a suburb of Newark. Okay, I'm just saying. But my what I call my warm-up marriage, my dear friend Robert Claassen, we were living in Denver. I worked in Denver, went professional in Denver, taught in Denver. He wanted to go to the U of A in graduate school. We moved down to Tucson and found a home, and the rest is herstory.
Indeed. Wow.
Did you think it was allergies? What did you think?
Well, actually, I initially I thought it was allergies, because so many people have moved here because of our air quality.
Yeah.
I know it's like a lot of times that's now going away, but it's like that's such a part of Arizona history, is just the whole air quality history.
I feel fortunate not to have allergies.
Exactly. I agree. So I'm so happy that I don't have to worry about. There are certain things though, but it's all good. All right. So question 11, what was the first theater that you worked in when you got to Tucson?
Arizona Theater Company. It was called Arizona Civic Theater at that time with Sandy Rosenthal, but it was the only equity house in town, and I was already a member of the union. So Molly and I, that's how I met Molly McCassin, we auditioned for a play called Hot L Baltimore.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we were both cast. We're very different types. And we found out, we both had an improv background. And that's when we realized we could do improv and comedy and become Molls and Sue's comedy team. And we were the darlings of the feminist movement. We did social and political satire, and to this day are still best of friends.
Wow, that's great.
So I probably have longevity of history of anybody still working in Tucson, or maybe even Phoenix, who has a history and knowledge of the early days of Arizona Theater Company.
No, actually, I would believe that. I mean, it's like I've done a few small projects with them, and it's been fun, but I don't think they have a real understanding of the depth.
Yeah.
Of where they've come from.
And their founder, Sandy Rosenthal. There would be no theater in Tucson without the commitment of a Sandy Rosenthal, to be honest.
Oh, so no, that's really great. And then our next question, oh my gosh, I love this question because I love that every Thanksgiving I can flip on my TV and I know I'm going to get to see Susan.
Yes.
So how did you get to be a clown in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade?
Definitely friends in high places, what I consider the highest places. So I have good friends in New York, They knew I loved the parade. I grew up with the parade. I would watch the parade religiously. It was the November after 9/11. I was going to be in New York for a board meeting. Norman Lear's People for the American Way. I had the privilege of serving on the national board, and we decided we would just stay in New York. We wanted to be in New York. And they said, oh, we'll get you bleacher seats. I said, no, we're happy on the street. About 3 weeks before, they called and said, you are in the parade. Because there was many people. Did you hear me shriek when that happened? Probably you did. There were so many people who were nervous. If you attack any iconic American thing, it would be the Macy's parade, right? Perfect, and people were afraid. So people had dropped out. You either have to be sponsored by somebody at Macy's or work for any of the Macy's. So we were sponsored. So that year we were part of the funny firefighter clowns. And we were with the Grucci's, they're the family that do all the big fireworks, and they were sponsored.
Okay.
And so you're standing up at Clown Corner, which is like 81st and Central Park West, 800 clowns up there. And we followed the fire department carrying the very narrow American flags that symbolize the Twin Towers. You saw all of these clowns just crying. And then they announced, okay, funny firefighter clowns, join the Macy's parade, lift the spirits of New York and the world. And your heart's going, and you join the parade. It was so thrilling. And every year is amazing. This past year, there was the parade and I was there. I was a funny farmhand clown. The year before, they only did the one block parade and they did a great job. Anyone who watches it on TV will know the difference because the first hour of the parade is just all the acts in Herald Square because it takes us an hour to get from uptown to downtown. But even though I tried, they said we're only using clowns from the tri-state area, which is Connecticut, New Jersey, New York. So I watched it on TV. It was the first Thanksgiving. We were home in 20 years, so it's always been, and this year was extremely thrilling because on the Monday before Thanksgiving, I did a performance of A Conversation with Edith Head at the National Arts Club in Gramercy Park, where I've done it before. It was wonderful, felt very safe, but it was the first that I had performed with people in mass, and I could feel the connection. It was so spectacular. And then on Thursday, I was a funny farmhand clown with a big straw hat and a chicken on my head and big eggs. And I thought, doesn't that symbolize my career? The elegance of Edith Head to a funny farmhand with a chicken on your head. That's my arc. And I'm sticking to it.
So when I lived in New York, we would always go the night before the parade and watch them blow up the balloons.
Yeah.
And then we would just get so cold because it was bitter cold in the evening. And these balloons take forever to blow up. But it was just so thrilling to be a part of just the origin of kind of every time the parade would start with this. So how do you stay warm?
It depends. You dress Uniglow, lots of thin layers. If it's bitterly cold, and there was only one that my imagination was so vibrant that I imagined it much colder than it ever could be. And they give you hand warmers, and you just have to move and you just put on layers. I always, and they give you everything. They give you the costumes. They do everything.
Oh, wow.
This year is we did not have clown makeup, no makeup on at all. And we wore masks the entire parade route. So I would practice the month before on the treadmill with a mask on, because there's sometimes you're really moving at a clip just to get into my clown shape, so. But that's, you just, and it depends where you are in the parade. Sometimes you can be up because they bus you up from downtown to Clown Corner, and you can be up there for 2 hours or 3 hours before you even start. Once it starts, you move fast. And that's when this year, as I passed Savannah and Hoda, I went, Savannah, Tucson, and she gave a thumbs up. So she sort of was involved in my clowning. I don't know. Stretching, Jimmy Fallon, when he found, and he loves the parade, when he found out the parade was going to happen, he said, and the clowns must be happy. And he showed a picture of my clown group from the years before. I can't tell you the text and everything. Like, Zeus, you're on Jimmy Fallon. You're on Jimmy Fallon. So maybe there's a connection there with Jimmy Fallon. So it's just been, and there's no one who is cynical about the Macy's parade.
No.
Everybody loves it.
It's such an Americana tradition.
Even when President Kennedy was assassinated and Macy's wanted to cancel the parade, Jackie said no. The parade must go on.
Wow.
So, but that's, I put it up there, conversation with Edith Head, award-winning, clown in the Macy's parade. Equal billing.
Exactly. Both important.
Right.
So, and both entertaining.
Thank you. And I'm going to do it today. This year was 95. I want to make the 100th parade.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. So we always end the trivia with asking everyone, how did they do? So for me, it's not, I always think it's more important. It's like all the stories that people now know, as opposed to when we started the show. So Susan, thank you so much for being here. It is always a delight to see you.
I love seeing you. I love it. It was so much fun to talk with you.
Oh my gosh. And I love hearing the beginning stories, how you got to Arizona, how Invisible Theater came to be. So thank you so much for sharing that 50 years of history of Invisible Theater, and just your bubbling personality is always a delight.
Thank you, my dear heart. Happy, healthy, safe New Year to you and all the people who've tuned in. And they can reach me if they have more questions about things. Put up my email and I'll happily answer anything.
All right, I will do that. So, Suze, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. You too, Marshall. Take good care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
It helps if you unmute yourself, because I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? So, I adore Sue so much. I love hearing about how she is a clown with a chick on her head and then plays the oh so elegant Edith Head and everything in between. So I also love that tonight, I know we had people from not just here, but Pam, who's in Mexico right now, as well as folks on the East Coast, and even some folks from Indiana who are in that blistery snow. And that's part of the reason why I'm not there anymore. So our last segment is From the Vault. And so since Susan and I are both very friends of fashion, we keep running into each other at all kinds of events. I want to talk about something at the Art Museum. Now, they always have an amazing fashion collection. Several years ago, they did a show that was graffiti and fashion. And so they have a Keith Haring tracksuit that was there was a collaboration between Jeremy Scott and Adidas. And it was the body art, based on the body art that Keith had done on Bill T. Jones in the early 80s. They then put that on a tracksuit, and that was the key piece in this exhibit. And it was such a fun exhibit. The current show they have up, I have not been to see yet for the fashion collection, but I do need to make my way over there to see that. And I always, anytime I talk about Keith Haring, there's that mural that he did here back in 1986 that is now gone. So a little bit obsessed by it, but that's a whole other story. So now you'll see why I always say, look at how much fun we're having with just Arizona history. So that's why you should share, because people don't think history is a lot of fun. And oh my gosh, are they wrong? Now, oh my gosh, next week is going to be so exciting because Taliesin West. So that's going to be a lot of fun with staff from there. Oh my gosh. Looking forward to what all we're going to learn about Frank Lloyd Wright, Taliesin West, and the mysterious kind of all the students that lived there and had to build little shelters out in the desert as part of the architecture program. So that'll be a really great show. So definitely you'll want to tune in. That is next Thursday, 7:00, same bat time, same bat channel. So now, always, as I keep saying, I love hearing from you all. Again, it was like even just the other day, somebody said, hey, what about? And I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. So I like hearing about what you're doing, things you maybe have dug up, maybe family things, or even just a random thing about Arizona. I think are always cool. Now, as we get ready to say goodnight, I always want to give a shout out to Crystal, who did that really cool video that we open with, as well as always PJ, my beverage advisor, coming up with such things as Bugs Buds. So tonight we are going to go out. I have a video of actually Keith Haring in town here in Phoenix back in 1986, painting the mural that we no longer have. He was with about 60 students from South Mountain High School. And so enjoy, have a great rest of your night, and I will see you all next week.